And that's why I believe in you, because that is the greatest purpose. It's to love. Honest. It sounds corny, whatever you want to say. I don't care. I love people because there is freedom and power in loving people.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we have the crazy belief that creating success and happiness is a daily conscious effort, which is why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week. I'm your host, Brandon Beecham, and each and every Wednesday, you can tune in to hear me interview a different consciousness changemaker that is out there working tirelessly to help catalyze change and expand awareness all across Spaceship Earth. On the other 4 weekdays, you can tune in to myself and my co-host, Dalian, giving interpretations of our favorite thought-provoking quotes, sharing a bit of inspiring or mysterious news, taking questions from the audience, and digging into any other mind-expansive topics that will help keep your soul fed by tuning you in to positive vibrations on a regular basis. And you guys have heard me say that if I ever run ads on the show, it will only be with a company that I fully support because I believe their intention is to make a positive difference in the world. Well, I'm pleased to announce that day has arrived and that this episode of the Positive Head Podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. All right, all you positive heads, on this week's interview episode, I am very pleased to have fellow podcaster Mohamed Omar here with me on the show. Mohamed is the host of a new podcast called Intentional Being and the Simple 7 Steps. Hello there, Mohamed. Welcome to the Positive Head Podcast, my friend.
Hi, Brandon. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. It was definitely when I saw the content and sort of what your show is about, and we initially talked about possibly interviewing one another, and it definitely made a lot of sense to me. You're definitely in the exact same wavelength, and I look forward to kind of picking your brain and learning what fuels you. And to jump right into that, first question I always like to open up with: you're on an elevator, you've got 10 floors to answer. The guy next to you looks over and says, "What's your passion?" What do you say?
Oh, okay. Well, my passion, that would be, that's exactly what I'm doing right now. It's my real passion is to be in alignment with my true self and express that true self outside in any way. So the answer to that person would be an expression of who I am, or if I'm going to play music, that will be the expression, that would be the passion. So creativity in general is my passion. I
love that. And I always say we're all creators. So doesn't it make a lot of sense that, all being emanations of source energy, which is the creator, right? Our higher self, God, whatever source, whatever you want to call it, it creates. So we are, in our, I guess, most joyful state, most excited state when we are somehow, some way being creative. And I think, of course, that differs for different people. But you mentioned in your case, music is a big one for a lot of people. Of course, a big one in my own life. And I know we talked a little bit about that over email even. But creating is certainly something that I would say anyone out there who's maybe not you hear these people sometimes, Mohamed, who talk about, I'm not creative. And it's like, yes, everyone is. It's just a matter of tapping into it. Would you agree with that?
I would say creativity is who you are. There is no question. It's just a matter of clearing the dust, and you will find that infinite creative space within you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And especially, a lot of people, of course, get self-conscious about it. And I know I've had my share of that sort of thing, or worrying what someone thinks or where I make it, or is it going to can I make money with it, or any of those things. And I think if you can get purely into a creative mindset and space without expectation, without worrying what anyone thinks or doesn't think, and just, really tap into your creative essence, there's a lot of goodies there to be found, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Do you know the author? What's her name? Elizabeth Gilbert. She's the one who
I am.
Yeah.
I'm familiar, but I don't think I've read Elizabeth Gilbert's books. She has a book, Something Magic, right?
Big Magic. Absolutely awesome book. Must read for people like you and me who want to tap into that creative flow and be free of the judgment, the voice inside, and all that. She speaks wonderfully. She has that wonderful way of talking. And she, before her breakthrough, which is the biggest book of hers, which is Eat, Pray, and Love, she kept her day job all the way until that book went out. And of course, it became like top selling and she got millions out of it. Until that day, she kept her job. And her reasoning is that I don't want to make my creativity. I don't want to burden my creativity. I want it to keep it free. I want my creativity to just be free. And I don't want to ask my creativity, hey, you have to pay my bills. Hey, you have to. I'm just going to separate those two. And I believe the universe give her back to expand in the true way she is.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, that's something, Mohamed, I can relate to. When I set out to, a little over a year, I'm coming up on, close to a year and a half, year and 3-4 months since I launched Positive Head and the Positive Head podcast. And that was very much my approach too. It's like I wanted to be in a position where I could approach it without any concerns of, monetizing. And of course, that becomes difficult for a lot of us, for a lot of people. And I know you're an entrepreneurial spirit as well. Mm-hmm. We have a lot in common, it seems. And so, having some success in business, and of course, it's been funny. It's funny for me because in that year, I've definitely had a bit of a roller coaster, but that's a whole nother story. But, at the time starting, definitely a peak in business and business success. And I was very passionate about, okay, I don't want to have to monetize this. Not that I'm opposed to it, but I'm just not, that's not a part of it for me. I wanted it to be as pure as it possibly could be. So I definitely can relate to that that perspective.
Yes, and the roller coaster as well is part of the process. Absolutely. Sometimes it is.
Absolutely,
I would say always,
I would say always it is, right?
A lot of the times, yeah.
If it's happening, it's happening. Tony Robbins always says, and I love it, this statement, life is happening for you, not to you. And I believe we have to look, and sometimes those for yous are really hard. You got to dig to find, hold on, why is this good for me again? But
exactly.
I think it's there. The lump of coal is at some point ready to be transmuted into a diamond, when you can really look at it from the right angle and really understand why you've attracted something into your reality.
Yes, and there are so much diamonds out there.
Yes, there is a lot of diamonds. So speaking of, what is your intention with intentional beings? What did you set out with? Why are you doing this? Why are you podcasting?
Oh God, where should I start? So, okay.
Wherever you want, Mohamed.
That was supposed to be a book to begin with. It was supposed to be a book that I wrote back in 2007, and it's called Intentional Beings: The 7 Simple Steps, The Path to Co-Creations and Self-Realization. Or the natural path to co-creations and self-realization. So let's start from here. I basically had that book in my hand at age 20 that's called The Yoga Philosophy by Yogi Ramacharaka. Not so much known person, but right now, because that's very old book, very old, for probably 1905. And that book introduced me to the concept of spiritual awakening. And I was like, oh my God, that is exactly what I've been looking for since I was a little kid.
Right.
What is spiritual awakening? And so through a series of, life experiences and meditations and yoga and Kundalini and mixing with drugs as well, because I was a rock star back in the 90s. And under the influence, I had that immense experience, awakening, I would call it, and the drug effect went away, and the experience continued for about 2 to 3 weeks, and it was that amazing, sublime space of absolute joy, where nothing in the world can clutter it or do anything to it. It was just that awareness of being, and I thought that, okay, this is great. Later on, I started to suffer from life again, and then I went to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I got clean off drugs back in '96, and then I came to the United States 2000, and I was introduced to Abraham Hicks, and that blows my mind. Yeah, blows me away. One of the most influential, I think, in my life. And I was introduced to the concept of co-creation, or manifesting what you want. And I was like, is that different from enlightenment? What I've been looking for? That passion that I want to be aware of who I really am, that true self. And then after years, just a few years later, I was introduced to Eckhart Tolle, which is a full circle back into the concept of enlightenment. And so the questions that kept coming in the last few years is, are these two different paths, or are they one? If I'm going to let go of desire in order to reach enlightenment, does that make sense? And what about co-creation? Do I have to be a monk? Do I have to let go of what I want? Do these desires that I have to create in this world real, or should I just put them aside and just seek my original intention, which is to awakening? And so through a series of meditations that actually I was taught by Abraham Hicks, it was a tape back in the 90s that they created called Blending with the Inner Being. And I listened to that tape every day during that period. It was 2002. And then I had that amazing spiritual experience again after 1 month of complete isolation, meditation 24/7. I just wake up, eat, meditate, and that's it. All day long. And my intention was to, as Abraham said, blend with my inner being. So I can have that same experience that Esther Hicks had, and though I remember exactly it was July 4th, 2002, when I stood up in my small apartment, my living room, I opened my arms wide and I said to myself, if there's one person on earth that will have that blending experience, it would be me. And I said that with conviction, because I had in my head the background of those years of seeking, and the manifestations of coming from Egypt to the United States is big. It's all about seeking that knowledge that didn't exist there at the time. And at that time, when I start to have that blending experience and things start moving, much like what happens to Esther when her head used to move at the beginning. That's what she used to say. She used to type with her nose. I don't know if you hear that story.
No, I have not.
She said she used to type with her nose, and Jerry would be sitting next to her and would write and stuff like that. And then the same thing happened to me, but I was not typing. It started to move all around my body, and these movements start to move like to a sort of yoga, sort of Tai Chi, sort of dance.
Wow.
And my wife called it Moga at the time, because Moga is it means wave in Egyptian language. So and by the way, she's from here. She's from Arizona here, but she learned some Arabic, so she called it Moga as a joke, and that was it. It's Moga. I still do that type of yoga until today, and
this came from your blending sort of channeling type experience.
Absolutely. All I had to do is put my mind aside enough time that the energy of who you are shines through. That's it. Yeah. And I would not say that I reached enlightenment. I'll be lying, because my ego, I still hear it. It's always there. And sometimes I have to say it takes over or me. But the only difference is that there is an opening that happened, that opened up, and that opening, I can switch and tune into it and listen to my true voice than my mind. I was aware of both voices, so to speak, and have the ability to tune into this or that. You see, and that's the difference that I see, and it's also called Kundalini awakening. In my opinion, I relate both together because it is Kundalini. You've done yoga, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there are in Hatha Yoga, there are things that they teach, like the neck lock. They call them bandhas, and the abdomen lock, and the mola bandha and the bottom. All these things happen naturally when I do this moga. And besides something else, that singing, my voice starts singing, but that's weird. I know.
That reminds me a lot of, what you're talking about. I've seen this sort of thing with people in a few occasions. It's never happened to me directly, but I think of some ayahuasca journeys, and multiple times I've seen different females especially go into singing, or I even had a girlfriend that went into singing, with psychedelics, not ayahuasca, but, psilocybin mushrooms or LSD. And so I've seen this multiple times with ayahuasca, where they'll go into this very, it's, I don't even know how to describe what you're hearing. But you can tell it's just something coming through them that is coming from elsewhere.
That is right. And so this is where it came, the 7 simple steps. And I believe I received it to sort of calm myself and find a path that is simple, that is very simple. And it will work with everything. If you're religious, it will work there. If you're a yogi, it will work there. If you follow Zen. And the information coming saying that those 7 simple steps has been practiced all along. They're not new. The only new about them today is that you know where you are. You're in step 2, you're in step 3, you're in step 4, what you're doing in relationship to anything, any subject in your life. So that was so quickly just saying my story of the 7 simple steps. Yeah.
Well, it of course leads me to so many more questions.
Yes, I know.
I'd love to hear. So let me get this straight. So the 7 simple steps you're saying you came up with in this whole process, this experience that you were having. Did I get that right?
You can say that, but I always say I did not really came up with it. I discovered it. It was there. It was there.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, definitely makes sense based off of what you're describing. So let's talk about those. The 7 simple steps. What are they?
Well, step 1 is intention, and basically intend. Find your intention. They are already within you. You don't have to go get them. They're there. Uncover them. And then grow them. And when you grow them, it means that you're just removing dust from them. So basically connect to what I call the higher intentions, the intentions that you came with into this life. You came to manifest these intentions. And then the second step is awareness of being, which is essential. And even Ibrahim Hicks talk about you have to be aware of how you feel, right? You have to be aware of the direction of the feelings. And basically that is the 7 simple steps, and relate also to my spiritual experience in the past. And I remember during those 3 weeks of absolute joy, there was one stable feeling of being, one relationship that was going on at all time, was that immense, let's say, stability or anchored into the true self, like in the center. And that's what we are looking for. We want to be aware of that self, that true self, most of our day.
Right.
And then the third step is to express, is expression. If you feel something, you need to express it without lying, and so you were mentioning at the beginning, people saying, "Oh, I'm not creative." That third step is at the core of opening up that creativity, because it tells you to remove all the masks and be as who you really are in the moment. If you want to cry, you cry. If you want to yell, if that's how you feel, then that's what you express, right?
Right.
And then after that expression, you move into the state of allowing. And so you intend to be allowing, and allowing is a universal law. It's in every religion, every sacred literatures. It's written there in different names. Maybe surrender, maybe acceptance is that state of being one with life and not minding what is going on around. And so sometimes we need to do some work to get there, to be in that state of allowing. So that's step 4. Step 5, once you're in that state of allowing, what will happen is you will receive gifts. So step 5 is receiving insights. Once you're in that state of allowing, what will happen is that you're going to manifest what you want, you'll see it, or you will receive insights. And those insights are tailored for you. It's not something that you need to take and teach other people, or oh, that's a good idea, thank you, bye. It's you have to know that this is the universe is giving you those golden nuggets that they are for you. So use them. So how to use them? In step 6, inspired action. And I know it's misleading. It means like, hey, go do something, but it's not. It's basically application of that insight. So you may use affirmations, you may use contemplations, you may use meditation. You need to practice that new insight. You need to become it. If you do that, you're going to reach step 7, which is realization. And realization is a state that I talk about it as most of the time as theoretical, but it's actually real, because, and I'm saying theoretical because there is only one realization, really. It's the realization of the true self. But you can use other small realizations. Like, for example, you are realizing that you are abundant already. You don't need to be running to get money. Or you are realizing that you are a great writer. You are believe in yourself as a writer. That's a realization. And if you're in that state, you don't care for validations. If Tony Robbins himself came and stand in front of you and said, sorry, your book is horrible, I'm sorry, you'll be like, whatever, dude. Nothing will happen to you, because you are in direct relationship with knowing that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. So that's quickly just going through that. You can apply them in anything in your life.
Yeah. And this is, of course, sort of the foundation of what you talk about on the podcast, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. I definitely resonate with all those concepts, and I'm sure the audience as well. Now, you talked about, of course, realization, right? And realizing the true self. What would you describe the true self to be?
What do I realize? How can I explain the true self?
Yeah, well, your description of what it means from all your experiences and what you've been through, and your perspective on reality.
Okay, so let me breathe in.
That's a good one to breathe in on.
It's a very powerful question, because and the main challenge here is that it's indescribable with words, but I'm gonna do my best. Okay.
Excellent.
So the true self. Let's start from here. Let's start and say that we are an infinite beings, right? And we came. All right. So there are 2 separate soul journeys. The first soul journey, I don't remember the terminology here, but it's to be separate from source. It's to experience yourself as separate, as an individual. And that's mostly most people you see around you are living in that state. Separate, disconnected, and some with good intention, and basically they seek to help themselves grow and stand out and become big and to approve of that self, because they don't know that the self does not need to be approved of at all. So the second soul journey, and that's from yogic tradition, not from my opinion. That's I read that in a yogic tradition. And the second part is that when the soul starts to getting glimpse of trying to remember who I really am. And in that process is the process of integration and going back into knowing the self as true, knowing the soul as infinite, and as a soul, the real self, as it never dies. It's always been there and it will always be. And within that second state, there are two stages. The first one is that awareness that you are infinite, that you are always alive, that you will never die. There's no such a thing as death.
Right.
And this is where all fears go away. And when all fears go away, your life here on earth will it becomes heaven. Heaven on earth. You will realize at that point that everything around you is magical. Everything is great the way it is. Nothing needs to change. There's no evil. There's no pain. There's no differences between the days of the week, or there's no holy day and a non-holy day, or an evil person and not evil person. And then in the second stage of that soul journey is that stage that you recognize that everything is one with you. There are absolute no separation between you and time and space and the planets. And that stage, if we cannot really talk about it because it's beyond the words, beyond any explanations, and beyond any imagery in your mind, because once we make an image, the ego will find something to hold on to, but there is nothing really to hold on to at all in that state. It's a state of oneness with everything.
All right. Well, now seems like a good moment to take a minute to tell those of you who aren't familiar a bit about our sponsor, Gaia. I've been a big fan of Gaia for many years now, which is why they're the only content provider I've ever reached out to in regards to potentially supporting the Positive Head podcast. So needless to say, I'm very excited they're now supporting this show. Gaia truly is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web. They have an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. Just to give you an example, you guys may remember when I interviewed multidimensional astral traveler Jason Quitt from episode 181. A lot of people really loved that episode, hearing his account of traveling to ancient Egypt in the astral plane, how he got schooled in the astral dimension, and a bunch of other fascinating accounts he based his book, Forbidden Knowledge, on. Well, he's appearing on the Gaia show Buzzsaw, which airs June 5th. So if you want to hear more from him, that's just one relative example. As you all hear me constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to go deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Right.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I did
a
what
lot.
I can.
And I couldn't agree more with all of it. It's you make it easy. So
you.
Make it sound easy anyway. But yeah, to describe something that is so hard to kind of wrap your brain around and see from all angles. And I really love how Neil Donald Walsh puts it in the Conversations with God books, which, you've mentioned a few of my favorite teachers, and Neil Donald Walsh is one. Conversations with God were hugely influential books on me, many, many years ago when they came out. And he talks about it being a divine dichotomy, two apparently contradictory things that both hold true from the ultimate perspective. Like you and I are separate. We can see evidence to that fact. We're talking here and we're states away from each other. We're holding a conversation. I'm in California, you're in Arizona. And so, yes, there's truth in that. From another perspective, you and I are one. It's the same consciousness, animating different forms, talking to itself. From another perspective, that indeed is the case, I would say. So I really like that, the idea that contradictory things can both be true based off the vantage point or lens through which you're viewing, right?
Yes. And our intention here is to keep finding out more of that self. Because it's infinite, right, and it's ever expanding. There's a lot of greatness here. And I will say it as some of my teachers say it too, the prize is you at the end.
Right.
You are the real prize.
Yes, absolutely. It all comes back to you. It's all, I always say that you are the center point of your own private universe. I'm a reflection. I'm a reflection of you and your movie. You're a reflection of me and my movie. But I'm literally, in one sense, it's my own trip. Everything is happening for me, to me. I think of a diagram. I interviewed Nassim Haramein. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. Brilliant quantum physicist several months ago, and he showed he has such incredible perspective, looking at things from, of course, a very scientific basis, but tying in unity and oneness and spirituality in such a brilliant way. And he showed a picture of, it was all these different points in this torus kind of thing. And he talked about how every point was the center of the universe, essentially. Like it was everything coalesced in that point. But then there was infinite points, but they all are the center of their own, everything's happening around them, and they're the stillness in the middle. And I believe that's what is happening with us. We are that focal point of source, and everything is happening around me. This is my sort of private movie in a sense, but it's everyone's private movie. And we get to, of course, then learn how to co-create. That you get back into the art of living, right? The dance of, separation and unification. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on how to find that balance. How do you mix the concepts of co-creation, with self-realization?
And in order to do that, we gonna be walking in what I call as a very narrow bridge, or a seemingly narrow bridge between the crying of the ego, which we always hear, and it's always there, and it does pull us out of our center. And that constant...
Everybody's greatest obstacle, ego.
Yes, exactly. So between that and the constant and trusting, ensuring sound of that inner being within, that soul that's shining through. So we're going to be walking here, and we know while we create, we look for those intentions not as an end result, which is really, really can be very challenging to the ego, but at the same time, it is simple. We have to be anchored into our being, not in the things. So let's say we're gonna create a vision right now that we are in a ship sailing in the ocean, and we are enjoying that sunset. Okay. And let's say that this is a dream of me to be in that ocean sailing, and let's say it's a fancy ship, right? So it's important not to be attached to that ship itself, but through that vision, it's like the bow and arrow, and we're shooting up in the air to get to that real deal, which is the feeling space itself. Because the feeling are what is real. So we have to keep walking that way. We have to keep walking and looking to what is real, not the ship. Don't be attached to the person or the exact avenue of the money or the exact anything. And that will take a lot of surrendering. So that is our challenge. We have to learn how to be in allowing state.
Yeah. Getting in touch with the essence of the experience, not the props in the experience, I would say.
Right. As you were saying a minute ago, it's like the whole universe inside itself. It's like every one atom inside it, the whole universe again. It's weird how it works, right? It's like everything is a reflection of everything, and everything is part of everything. And so, it is that same concept. When you reach that feeling state, it is the true manifestation. Because if you kept clinging to the ship itself, that ship experience would be maybe good, but it's not going to be the actual satisfaction that you will get. You have to hold on to that essence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is something I think of oftentimes, when I perceive people's relationship experiences, or myself, even from firsthand experience. You have a relationship and it's with a person, or, whether it's a friend, or a lot of times with romantic relationships. And this person is completely unique. They're irreplaceable in some way. And then there's a breakup, and there's this, great sense of loss. And how can I ever, I'll never replace this person. And I think what is really important with our relationships, or with a physical possession, or whatever it is, when you can understand that whatever it is that you love about the essence of a thing, or a person, or an experience, the universe has so many creative ways to deliver that essence to you, or variations on that essence that are even going to be more suited for you in the next iteration of your experience as you become the next greatest and grandest version of self, right? So people can be not so attached to that beautiful yacht that they're sailing on when it sinks and then be devastated. Instead, realize there's infinite versions of yachts they haven't even perceived yet that can be brought into their experience, and instead look to the horizon as, oh, wow, that was incredible. And now it's past, and that's beautiful. And I can't imagine what vessel will appear next for me, right? And so often I think people get sucked into mourning whatever it is they've lost, and then that holds them in that, of course, vibrational state where they can't really move forward or experience what's next.
That is right. That is right. And it happens to me. I cling on things.
We all have those experiences.
And it wakes me up. It's a good thing, actually, because it's an opportunity. There's a part of me that's still holding on things that is not allowing the light. It's not allowing the fullness of myself. And I'm glad that you came here to show me this. So let's work with you. Let's practice a little bit more surrender.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That is the key. Surrender is such a big piece for people to get. I know for me, for all of us, to just surrender to what is, and to experience it fully. And I like the idea, master is someone who embraces whatever shows up, because they realize, even if they don't fully see the whole picture, they realize it is perfectly, gifted to them. A higher part of themselves has placed it there intentionally as the next thing for them to experience. And as a result, they embrace it fully and surrender to whatever it is.
Yes.
So one of the things that I'm very interested in that you talked about was sort of some of the experiences that you've had. The inner child in me loves to hear any sort of spiritual experience in detail, or maybe a lot of times a story of synchronicity or serendipity, or any kind of positive paranormal story. And it sounds like you have a few up your sleeve there, Mohamed.
Yeah.
Care to share?
Okay, so let's see. You said your inner child. I love that, because I love inner child work. It's amazing, profound work. It's definitely 7 simple steps.
Yeah.
But it's, So, let me pick
Lest
something.
you become like a child, right?
Yes. All right. So there is one story that I always say, I already told you about the blending experience and the standing and opening the arms. It's like weird. It's like, even though the intention was there all along, but somehow when I stood up and I opened my arms wide and I said, if there is someone on earth that's going to do it, it will be me. Something powerful about this.
Something came through you.
Yes. There is some co-creations right there. Yeah. So let me talk about moving from Egypt to the United States as one of my manifestations that I did. And so I was in a 12-step program, and that's where I started. That's where the idea of 7 Simple Steps came from, is those 12 steps are how they affect so many people's life and change them profoundly.
Like AA kind of thing. Is that
exactly? AA, NA, yes. And so at the time, I was still in a rock band, and the government
in Egypt, right?
I was in Egypt, and the government came and took everything. They accused us of being satanic. They took 60 people to jail.
Wow.
And the music stopped at that point completely.
Wow.
And then I was basically alone, and my band is broke. I don't have my band anymore. And I'm starting to kind of clean my life from the beginning by going to AA and getting clean. And so I would talk to my sponsor about how much pain I'm in. There is no job. I don't want to work in Egypt because people make so much money. It's like you're here in America making $400 a month. Would that help you? It's not going to help probably pay the rent. Probably, right. Yeah. So that's what people get paid there. Something really very, very low. And then my struggle with understanding myself, because I'm coming from drug experience and getting clean and all that, and then my struggle with my my music and my struggle with my college. I didn't finish college at the time, and so there was pain everywhere I go, and there was problems with my friends. I just found myself all alone, and so I talk to him every day, and he will tell me, are these problems that you're thinking about, you have to work with them today? Are they really in hand today? And I would say no, but I need to worry about them a little bit. Right. And he would tell me, no, you don't. Why don't you hand them over to that God of your understanding? Okay. Whatever you choose, right? Really. Just hand them over. And so that's what I did. And my sponsors talked to me every day for day after day, a whole year, actually. And the miracles start to happen. I met a girl who came from Arizona here, and we started playing music together in 5 Stars Hotel. Apparently, people in Egypt like blondes, and she was blonde, and so and so we got the best jobs there, playing music, making a lot of money, living in a 5 Stars hotel. Don't have to work at all.
Wow.
So I had to spend my time, because I really did not want to play music at the time, because I was playing cover tunes to kind of turn me off from playing music. Yeah. So I spent my time doing yoga, about 4 to 5 hours daily doing yoga. And during this time, I believe that I transformed so much about my consciousness, that crowdedness, that pain that was around me. And I'm not saying Egypt is pain or Cairo is pain, that what I was living in. It's my perception of it that was painful, okay? Yeah. And so that was transformed completely. And this is how she came one day and she said, do you want to come to the United States? Yes, and here I am. 16 years later, I am here still. And I believe that I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
So that's just one experience.
Very cool. Yeah, it's basically when you, what a great lesson though, to surrender. How often do people really think of that? Like, I can offer up all these problems to whatever it is to you, like he said, whatever God, source, higher self, whatever you want to call it. I want to offer it up to spirit, and now I am instantly lighter. And of course you did that, and it sounds like things got a lot lighter when you did that.
Yes. And that's why we sometimes want to need each other's. We get insights from each other's. You can remind me of time that I'm down and tell me, how about you let go? You know?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to put it. I mean, and I think that's what we're all doing here, really, walking each other home, so to speak. I always say, this passion for me talking about these topics and this podcast, it's, I feel called to be a waker-upper. I can't tell anyone anything that they don't already know. I can just simply remind them what they've forgotten. And in the process, who is being reminded first and foremost? Self, right? I always say, of course, there's no selfless acts. And I'm doing this first and foremost. We teach best what we most need to learn, right?
That's right.
So it becomes this beautiful, thing, this experience as relationships of all kinds in our life. And it's certainly in my life in recent years, I've seen a lot more, I've made a lot more relationships of people who are on the same wavelength. And it's so beautiful because I can have moments of slipping, and now this person is there to do exactly what you're saying. Hey, look at what you're doing. Knock, knock. Look, your vibration just went down about 5 notches there with that perspective. Care to come back up here? And it really, to have that support. And, I'm curious in your own life, because it sounds like you've been on this path for quite some time, as have I. And I know I've talked about it oftentimes on the show. I've been, for the first 15 years of my spiritual journey, it would be me, passionately talking about that subject I felt so called to talk about. And aside from reading books from famous authors way far away, removed from my day-to-day life, it was be talking about this stuff to anyone who would listen. And they'd either say, that's very interesting, or wow, what's he smoking? And that was sort of it. And now in recent years, it's like, I've just got, I'm connecting with people like you all the time on the show. And I've got all these friends and my day-to-day life, and that I go to a lot of transformational festivals where there's just droves of people on awake and aware and talking about this stuff and spreading love and light, and it's such a beautiful experience to have that support system. Have you, on your own journey, do you feel like you're seeing more and more people sort of coming online and waking up, so to speak?
Yes. I mean, would you imagine just a few years earlier that a book like The Power of Now will do what it did? Sells millions all around the world talking about just being awake. I mean, how that happens? I traveled all the way from Egypt to here so I can find those books, one here and one there, and go and practice with Yogi Bhajan up in the mountain for a couple of weeks, or, that's what I did basically at the beginning. But now it's definitely a lot of people hearing this. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. It really, and it seems a lot of people are, I referenced the Transformational Festival scene, and it's incredible because it seems like it's like, and even with like very young people, 18, 19, 20, just sort of coming out of childhood, and spirituality is like cool. It's like the thing. They're tapped into it. They're turned on to it. They seem to be a lot clearer than maybe, those that have come before them. And so it's really a fascinating interplay on the planet at this time of light and dark. And it's going to be fascinating to see how it continues to unfold.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, Omar, this is Mohamed. This has been so. I want to call you Omar. I have if you listen back to one of my very first podcasts, I have a really cool Omar story.
Oh,
and
really?
So if you ever get the chance, listen to episode, I think it's 2, and any of you listeners who haven't listened from the beginning. So anytime I see the name Omar, it's like I'm drawn to it instantly. And if you hear the story, I won't share it now, but it's a long one. But so Mohamed, what is the best way for people to connect with you? Through, obviously, they can tune into the podcast.
Yes.
You also have a website as well, correct?
Oh, yeah, intentionalbeings.com. And we are holding free classes that starts every month on the beginning of the month.
Wonderful.
So we have that class, which is, I don't see any better first class as finding your, it's called Living with Purpose, your personal mission statement. So basically, you create that personal mission statement, which is 14 days, 14 meditations. We take you through a journey, every area of yourself, so you can find that statement that you're going to read to yourself on a daily basis.
Love that. Love that. That is certainly, and that's all being offered for free on your website.
Yes, and my website is a journaling website as well. I happen to have a journaling website that did good back in 2011 and still there with a lot of people journaling. So there are areas there where you journal while you answer certain questions.
I love that. I love that. Well, I look forward to checking that out myself.
Thank you. I would love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your opinion. Yeah. I still have a lot of work, to be honest, because I am the web developer as well. I am a web developer. So,
okay.
Yeah, I have some work to do on it too.
Yeah. Well, it always, it's especially with web development, much with our own personal self and self-growth, it's a never-ending process, right? The journey, the path is the goal. We never quite get it done.
Yeah, never done.
Never done. Mohamed, such a pleasure. So glad that we were able to connect like this. And I do have one final question I'd like to leave you with. I always open with the same question and close with the same question. 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life according to Mohamed Omar?
Oh my God. 60 seconds. The meaning of life, well, let's say to know ourselves.
Simple and profound.
Just what came up in my mind right now.
No, I would argue, but I agree. So
yes,
it's as good as any. You still had 59 seconds left, but you couldn't have been more concise.
Yeah, I kind of wish that I made it in a poetic, shiny way, but it felt like I'm reading it off a bumper sticker. But here you go.
There you go. Now you've got something that you need to create, a bumper sticker.
All right.
All right, Mohamed. Thank you so much, my friend. This is a true pleasure to connect with such a beautiful reflection, and we'll have to do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm actually anticipating interviewing you on my podcast because intentional beings out there want to hear about you. I'm sure you have a lot to say.
I cannot wait.
Yes.
Well, everyone, that concludes this week's interview episode. If you have enjoyed this positive download from our hearts and minds to yours, please take a minute, give us a rating or review on iTunes. Since iTunes is the holy grail of all things podcasting, your good reviews help us to reach more listeners. Also, we would be extremely appreciative if you would tell your friends and family about the show. Our sincere intent with the Positive Head podcast is to spread positivity to the world because we're selfish, quite honestly. I say that jokingly, but really only halfway joking. I'm referring to the good kind of selfish based on the knowing that we all get what we give in this life, because when we give, we're actually always giving to extensions of self, since we're all really one in the same consciousness, just in different bodies. So if you want to be a good selfish along with us by helping to spread the positivity, by all means, please proceed to shout about the Positive Head podcast from your rooftop. Otherwise, as you continue on your fabulous journey in this 3D reality, be sure to remember this. As long as you ain't dead, you're already positive ahead. Journey well, everyone, and thank you for being.